All right, here we are, a minute tardy to the party. Such a it's such a strange thing. No matter how far in advance you plan, sometimes it feels like you're coming down to the last minute. But it is what it is. That's how it goes sometimes. But welcome to Morning Journal. It is now session number 393, I believe. I think that's what we're calling it. Yesterday, I was out around in DC and really got an intimate knowledge of a very specific neighborhood. I've been there before, but I didn't know a lot about the history. And I think the fact that we were walking around made a big difference. A lot of times you don't really learn about a place until you explore it on foot. I think maybe what we do more often than not is treat places, all the different places that we experience, as just somewhere where we're passing through. We're trying to get from a place to another place, and we miss everything in between. There's that saying that, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Most of the time, in everyday life, you are disregarding the journey because you're in a hurry to get to the destination. So I enjoyed the journey yesterday. I enjoyed being on the train. I used to travel by train a lot, especially when I was living overseas, living in Germany. I used to take the train to work every day, and that commute, it was a long time ago, so it was kind of pre-smartphone. So when you were going somewhere, you didn't really have a means of distraction or anything else to engage with other than your surroundings. I mean, I guess I could have taken a book or something like that, but most of the time I just sat there, sat on the train, maybe talked to somebody, looked out the window and saw things. So my experience yesterday was much like that. I was, looking around and seeing what was really happening around me. But thanks for joining us for Morning Journal. I've been enjoying being back into this practice once again. We are starting today's session with some gratitude. So, first, let me say thanks. I'm grateful to you for joining. Um, and I look forward to hearing what you are grateful for this morning. I guess today I'm grateful for feeling like I have a little bit of time and space. I think it's important to recognize the times where you have a little bit of autonomy in terms of how you are going to engage your time and energy on a given day. The reality is you always have a choice, but sometimes the choice, is not a trade-off that you're willing to make. So our response from T Mizzle to what she's grateful for is connections and knowing the right people. Grateful for connections and knowing the right people. Sometimes we fall into a situation where, you know, we just born knowing the right people. Uh, and other times we have to work to cultivate that network or that community that can be helpful in helping us achieve our goals and reach our objectives. So I guess, yeah, sometimes things all turn on relationships. And if we don't know the right people yet, a lot of times we can get to know the right people. If you don't come in the game knowing the right people, you can get to know the right people. Better yet, maybe you can become the right person. You can become the person that others need to know. So T. Mizzle says, as my lights just flickered, I'm grateful for electricity. There's so many things that are just kind of that just exist for us without us taking notice of them. It's like the universe is clearing its throat to let you know that it's notice here. But just that little clearing of the throat, that little flicker helps raise your awareness or call your awareness or attention to some things that perhaps are worthy of your notice and gratitude. So Kaloli says, I'm grateful for the lessons learned in the past. It's been helpful recently. It's been helpful recently. So that pain or that discomfort or that disappointment um, is paid is paying dividends now. I came across an interesting quote. It said that discomfort is an investment. Discomfort is an investment. So whenever you're going through a situation that you feel ill prepared for, that you don't feel comfortable in, the lessons that are there are going to pay dividends later. So sometimes it's useful to seek out that discomfort so that you can draw the dividends of that in something that you are going to experience later. So it's kind of framing discomfort in the same category as sacrifice. You know, you give up something or you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. I think the context they were talking about in the quote was, people, will leave their home and move away to a strange foreign place and go through a whole bunch of hardships as an investment for the next generation. Okay, so we're comfortable here now because we're used to it, but we're going to make the investment in discomfort to position the next generation to be even better or to do even better, to experience more. So discomfort as an investment is sort of the idea there. And your response in acknowledging the value of the things that you've been through, the hardships, the challenges, and the lessons that came from those, I think that's a good example of that. So we're going to move on to the second of our three prompts for today. And we're going to be talking about momentum. Where do I have momentum? It's tough going when you're trying to get started with something. Um, Again, going back to that conversation about discomfort in the beginning, is always starting things is it can be uncomfortable because you're trying to figure out what's going on. And eventually you start to master some of the aspects of the task or the endeavor, and it becomes not something that you have to grind through or think about. It's kind of something that you kind of automatically do. You got things rolling, things are starting to come together. So thinking about places that you might have some momentum. Now, I want to throw a little curveball or add a little context to this idea of momentum. Momentum doesn't have to be isn't it's kind of a neutral concept. Um, if you're rolling downhill about to crash into a wall, you have momentum. You know, it's momentum going. It might not be going where you want to go, but there are things that are accumulating um, in a direction that is a lot harder to stop than it is to keep going. So, where do you have momentum might be in a direction that you have chosen that you intend, or the momentum might be going in a way that you don't necessarily want to go and you find it difficult to put the brakes on. So when we think about momentum, a lot of times our first instinct is to consider the positive aspects of momentum, but momentum can cut either way. And it could be that if you look at your circumstances and you look at where you are right now, you have a lot of momentum going, you know, in a catastrophic direction or an unhealthy direction. So you don't know where you're headed until you get there. Right. Well, I mean, maybe if you look up, you can see where you're headed. If you're headed there, that means you're facing that direction. If you open your eyes, you might be able to see. But a lot of times when it's really scary, the thing that happens when we're in a situation that's really scary is we close our eyes. So we don't know where we're going. And we don't want to look. The first thing the thing that you do when you're about to crash, a lot of times instinctively, is to close your eyes. To quote Mob Deep, you know, you shook, you scared to death, scared to look. you know, that's the thing. We don't know where we're headed because we are afraid to look. But we are headed in the direction that we're facing. So T Mizzle is talking about a place where there's momentum in accepting change. In the last few years, I felt like I'm going backwards, but it's slowly changing. Yeah, because change happens at the pace of change, but sometimes our acceptance of it lags behind. So I guess maybe the quicker we can get on board with accepting whatever the change might be, the better off we'll be. That's sort of like looking up and opening your eyes. And the interesting thing about momentum, it doesn't necessarily um, mean that you have to try to stop the motion and pull in the other direction to interrupt the catastrophic outcome that might be coming of this momentum. It might just be that you're moving and you see you're going in the wrong direction. You can just veer off a little bit. Just a slight change sometimes with the momentum that you have can help you avoid danger. And then you just keep making those changes until, you're going in a more helpful direction. So Kaloli is sharing something about momentum, which I think is a helpful insight. I'm gaining momentum career wise, but I need to look up and probably focus on my personal life. Things can very quickly fall out of balance if you don't look up. We have one more prompt for the session today. What have I held on to for too long, and what have I let go of too soon? There was a recent movie called Omni Loop, where it was this woman who had, at some point early in her life, I don't want to spoil it. Maybe you want to watch it, but the idea is she had a way of traveling back a short period of time so she could redo the same week as many times as she wanted to until she got it the way she wanted. So you can really perfect that week because you have all the answers. But maybe that's holding on too long, you know? And on the other end, letting go too soon is uh, you just try it once. And then after it didn't work out the first time, it didn't feel comfortable. It felt bad. It was uncomfortable. And you didn't pursue that. It's giving glory says, yeah, I need something like that. I think that's sort of a pervasive fantasy is to be able to travel back in time. So just etch a sketch like it never happened. So what have I held on to for too long? And what have I let go of too soon? Hold habits that don't serve me, I held on to for too long. I mean, you know what they are. You don't have to tell us as long as you know what they are. And working out, I let go of that too soon. It was just starting to work, and then I fell off. Yeah, I think that's a common one. I think we've all experienced. Oh, you know what? When I exercise, when I eat a little better, I feel so good. And then for whatever reason, uh, we let it go, and we pay the price for that. How do we sum up today's conversation? Um, well, we did gratitude, of course. We want to always come to some sort of way of acknowledging things, whether we just noticing them or whether we're expressing gratitude. So we started there. Then we talked about sort of the two sides of momentum and the value of looking up and seeing what direction you're going. And then finally, we are kind of looking and examining ways that we are might be holding on to things a little bit too long, maybe repeating lessons that we've already mastered just because they feel good. It feels good to succeed. So we halt our growth by holding on to those things. And sometimes maybe we haven't given something enough time to work. We let go a little bit too soon. So those were the prompts for today. I'm glad that you have taken the time. If you're hearing my voice right now, you've listened, and I appreciate you. I guess I need to put my Instagram handle in the show notes for those who don't follow me. But if you want to catch us live, you can catch us on Instagram Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. And yeah, I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day.